we're going to talk about how to make things easier for those left behind. Now, that might not be a topic you want to talk about. I'm CJ Jenkins from Century 21 Cornerstone, and I'm a senior real estate specialist. And I come up to these situations many a time when there is a successor trustee who is the one selling the home. Now, it doesn't mean that the trustee is not going to talk to the other family members about an offer that comes their way, but this is the person who signs the document and is in charge of making the final decision. Now, I know you're all working on your taxes, but as soon as your taxes are finished, you should be able to go back and look at your will. Some people say, oh yeah, I wrote a will about 2 years ago, but life changes. Do you have a new grandchild since then? Have you bought a piece of property since then? Maybe a new car even since the last time you wrote your will. All of these pieces of the puzzle need to be identified and clarified in your will. Now, people say, well, I have a will, so I don't need a living trust. And there's a difference between that, because a will it could be written in, of course, your own words, but you may not have as much control of how items are dispersed. And you can also, with a will, get stuck in probate. And that's our goal, to keep out of probate, to have everything documented about how you would like to leave things for your loved ones. And this is where a living trust needs to be added into a will. A living trust is usually done with an attorney. Sometimes people don't want to spend the time or the money to work with an attorney. Here is a booklet here from one attorney which says Understanding Living Trusts, how you can avoid probate, which is very costly and could be delayed from 1 to 3 years, how to save on taxes, and more details there. Now, when I took care of my Auntie Sadie's estate, we knew that she was going to be passing. It wasn't a surprise. She was in her 80s, and I was the successor trustee. Also, I talked to my brother and my sister, who were also part of the beneficiaries of her estate. One of the things that we need to make sure I needed to make sure that I had all of her documentation from all of her bank accounts, the numbers, putting me on that bank account so I could actually write checks for her care. That was also part of what was necessary. But today you also need something else. What are the passwords to get into a trust account? What are the passwords to get into maybe your Apple ID and your investments? Those kinds of things are really important. So get that information now. There should be someone who has 100% of that information, or that information could be put in a safe. If they don't have it at their fingertips right now, that information is for them in the safe. And when I was a little girl, I used to see those movies where everybody sat around in some fancy, rich lawyer's meeting room, and everybody was dressed up, ready to find out what they got from their dead relative. Did they get the house? Did they get the boat? Did they get the yacht? You know, all those kinds of stories like that, and it was always dramatic. But this is very simple, you do need a living trust. You do need to update your will. And there is also something called a TOD, transfer of death. If you have that filled out, that deed, to a home that you own, then all you have to do is that the person who is designated can use their ID and their death certificate and go to the county and be able to have the deed signed over. And this avoids anybody going through probate. Now, This is something else that happens. This is a classic conversation you'll hear. I could hear this at the clubhouse at Lake of the Pines. Someone has a lakefront to sell. That lakefront is $1,500. $1,500,000. That sounded way too incorrect. $1,500,000. There are 3 heirs, and someone says, "Oh, you shouldn't sell your mom's home, your mom's lovely lakefront. You shouldn't sell it. You should keep it in the family." Well, if one person owned that home, and the other 2 people were not part of owning that home, then that $1,500,000 needed to be paid for by this one person. They may have inherited $500. The other person inherited $500, and the other person inherited $500, as the estate was divided from 3 parties. This person here to own the home has to come up with $500 to pay back one of their family members and $500 for the other family member, and come up with $1 million worth to pay off their family members to keep that family home that was worth $1,500,000. So it isn't as simple as it sounds when families divide up the pie. This is also an emotional time for families, with emotions, whether it's relief, remorse, guilt, sadness, all kinds of emotions that are floating around. And if your loved one prepares for the family when they're not there and gets all of these things documented, then it's going to help relieve any tension that could be between family members. And that is what you want. You want to leave this world with your family members being taken care of, but you also want that harmony and love that's within a family structure to continue after you're gone. So I'm not an expert on this, as you can tell, but I do want to encourage you to connect the dots. Get your ducks in a row, whatever the saying is. Take care of your will, update it, and get yourself a living trust so you can protect any property that you have from going into probate, and that your family can actually be better taken care of by you taking these actions today. I'm CJ Jenkins from Century 21 Cornerstone. I hope this has given you a little prompt here to reach out and get some help and do some updating, and your family will be grateful for you doing these steps. Take care. Happy 2023. If you have any questions, or if you'd like me to share this copy that I have here for you about understanding living trusts, I would be happy to make a copy for you. Give me a call at 530-906-4715. See you next time.